Welcome back to the 0 to KSH challenge, where today is a bonus episode because we did in fact achieve KSH in the previous episode, and it's been heavily requested by you guys that I carry on the series. That said, however, today I brought some friends with me, so I'm not just playing with random players. But before we introduce my friends, I just wanted to remind you guys that if you did want to watch me live, or perhaps join me for some Keystones, I stream over on Twitch a few days a week. A link to that and all of my other socials can be found below. So, I have some plans for the rest of the series, and I brought some friends with me today because, well, I had some interesting ideas. And this idea has been a community thing for quite a few months now, and I've been itching to be part of it. So, without further ado, let me introduce the team. Of course, to begin with, we have ourselves, Zaladar, the Ret Paladin. Next up, we decided to recruit another Ret Paladin, which goes by the name of Keita. You gotta keep one eye open when she's around, because she takes all the loot. I guess we're called loot goblins for a reason. And if you thought 2 wasn't enough, then you guessed it, we added a third Ret Paladin to the team. This Ret Paladin in particular loves to go burr and goes by the name of Avo. Leading the line, we have the tank main himself, Bloodleth. And of course, you probably guessed it, but Bloodleth is playing a prop paladin. Not his typical go-to tank, but let's just hope this one spends a little less time inspecting the floor. And then I guess every team needs a class clown. So let me introduce our 5th and final member, Bumble. I mean, not only is he a dwarf, but he's dressed for the occasion too. Now, assembling this party, I asked each and every player to pick their best transmog for the occasion. And this is what they came up with. There's always one. So, the team was assembled. The Paladin Party of Dreams is about to become a reality. So, the plan for this episode was to time a +20. Kinda like a challenge within a challenge. And our first order of business is to warm up with a Freehold 17. Now, what makes this challenging is the fact that we're all paladins, so we don't really bring a lot of variety to the group. And I was prepared with some drums I bought from the auction house, but let's just hope I remember to use them. Yeah, I think we're gonna need a bloodlust. So, we begin this warm-up run in a Freehold 17, and before jumping in, I kinda prepped the group with a few instructions. I knew AoE wasn't going to be an issue because, you know, Divine Storm go burr, but we're probably going to lack when it comes to that single target damage. Though, luckily for us, this is a fortified week, and along with that we have both Afflicted and Raging, so we're pretty well equipped. Now, I believe both myself and Bloodleth, who's tanking, have an auto marker weak aura. So when we highlight our cursor over the nameplates of the enemies, it should then place markers on priority targets. You know, those that you need to stun, CC, and going into this, I informed the team that I would focus on the star targets. Star is usually my main focus when I'm pushing with the Mythic Plus team, so I didn't really want to change it. Although Keita was very stubborn about this, and she often took my target. No one tells me what to do. Now, as you could imagine, because it's only a 17, the first pack goes absolutely fine. We completely smash it because, you know, Divine Storm go burr. And just look at all that pink. But do you remember what I said about drums? Yeah, I didn't use it. I'm not very good with classes that have a bloodlust. So the fact that we don't have one and we're relying on me to actually use drums, I mean, the team could remind me too and they didn't, so, you know. Now, we start clearing ads at the first boss, and this is where we get our first casualty. Yeah, Keita, you're not meant to stand in those frontals. She does main a hunter though, so, you know, it's to be expected, right? Yep, I'll be sleeping on the sofa tonight. Bless her. She makes our way back and once again stands in yet another frontal. Yeah, don't forget guys, just because it's a full paladin group, we have a hunter main in the party. So Dilly gonna take full advantage of this one. Sorry, I love you, don't hurt me. Now, the first boss is obviously a little challenging at times because, well, melee is a real issue. Because we've got no one to bait the poop, well then it just lands in melee and we have to constantly kite the boss. Nevertheless, we push on and we actually take down the boss, and Keita doesn't die during this one. Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning at this point that Keita is actually a little undergeared compared to the rest of us. So both myself, Avo, Bumble and Bloodleth, we're all sat above 440, and I think at this point, Keita is probably not even 430. So all things considered, she's actually doing a really good job. But don't worry, because I have a strong feeling that she's going to get her own back on Dilly, in more than one way as well. Now, we moved onto the bridge and on Discord, just as we pull these mobs, I know that they do the big knock-up effect, and you take a lot of damage. I don't think they heard me, but I asked, who's going to land on the roof today? Yeah, it was Keita. Oh, I'm going to pay for all this. Dealing with all the rat traps was kind of hilarious because we've got unlimited freedoms, and the same goes for the second boss with the barrel. So we start progressing the second boss. Everything's going absolutely fine, and typically when you take down Edora, a member of the party will go and pull a couple of ad packs. Because honestly, after Edora dies, the rest of the boss fight is incredibly easy. So to save a bit of time and play to our strengths, being Divine Storm, well, this pull was very much needed. Just maybe I have Bubble available next time? Funny thing is that playing with the team and the community, I think I've died doing this like 3 times. Once on my Evoker actually, where I used Breath of Eons to jump back in and I just got gripped straight back. Yeah, you don't have Bubble on Evokers, do you? That was rough. We move on towards the Shark boss, and I think here, as I start the event inside the arena, we pull just a little bit more than we intended. Without a doubt, some form of judgment or divine toll just totally went off and did its own thing. Unfortunately for us, throughout this we let an afflicted go off. We do lose Bumble, but the rest of us manage to survive and we take down these ads because Divine Storm, oh my goodness, why did they buff it? I still don't understand, but I'm not going to complain. Alright, the Shark boss, another test for melee, because we obviously have no range, so this one was going to be tricky as well. I tried being that team player at times, and I tried kiting the sharks towards the puddles, but that of course meant kiting them through other players. Obviously not intentional, but incredibly funny. Oh, and do you remember where I said Kita gets her own back? Well, it begins here. The boss throws a shark on Kita, Kita kites the shark round me, I then try kiting the shark through one of the puddles, and the boss charges to the shark and takes Dilly out. Oh, we're gonna see more of this, don't you worry. Dilly gets picked back up, we take down this guy, and we move towards the last boss. Now, there's nothing really to cover on the last boss, apart from a funny incident where Bumble, the healer, announces that they're gonna use Bubble for the cannon barrage. I don't think they use Bubble. The rest of the boss goes absolutely fine, and we end up 2-chesting this key. And to all the rep paladins out there that have been absolutely farming Freehold for the weapon, myself included, well, get that enemy list out guys, because Kita needs to be added to that one. Didn't I say that she gets all the loot? Yeah, I wasn't joking. I'm pretty sure Bumble traded her the ring as well, so she got double out of that. Oh, the bloodlust situation. I forgot to mention. Yeah, well, as it turns out, we only used it on the last boss. Good job, Dilly. Good job. Now, because we only 2-chested that key, from the 17 we had a 19 VP. There wasn't really anything to cover from this run, but I guess the Kita payback hasn't quite finished, because Dilly does something quite special at the dragon boss. So here's what happens. So those that don't know, I have ADHD. I'm very bad when it comes to focus, and when there's a lot of chatter on Discord, which there was on this occasion, I really can't focus, which is absolutely fine. I'm not complaining at all. We were having a great time. I just need to squeeze my excuses in where I can. It takes me far too long to notice I'm not standing in the right spot, and as I go to reposition myself, the boss starts casting its frontal ability. I get picked back up, we start taking the boss down. Oh, and Bop doesn't work like that, man. Bumble just be for sciencing, y'all. Nothing to report on the last boss, this one goes down absolutely fine, and we do in fact time this key, which means if we can comfortably do a 19, then surely we should finally challenge ourselves with a plus 20. So that was indeed the plan, and we moved towards Underrot. Although, and I'm not quite sure what happened, and Dilly has a bad track record of this, I think someone was naughty and they stuck in a 21. Yeah, there was one night when I was playing with the team, we were meant to do Bumble's 20 Underrot and I snuck in my 22. But we actually timed that run and I was kind of hoping this was going to go the same way. This was it, an Underrot 21. We began and we started taking down the first ad pack. And Dilly's definitely going to use drums for this, right? Man, I'm a dum-dum. So yeah, we finished the first pack and we don't even use drums. Not ideal, especially on a fortified week. That meant we had to use it on the first boss, and in my opinion, again, especially on a fortified week, is completely wasted. Because the first boss, in comparison to everything else, is pretty easy. So yeah, drums is used on the first boss, it goes down absolutely fine, as you would imagine. I won't mention the key to death, don't worry. And then we find ourselves at the second boss. I'll skim over the additional deaths because, you know, as much as Divine Storm goes burr, so do the maggots. We don't need to include those deaths. Now, I was kind of worried about this boss to begin with because of the lack of single target damage, although it is only a fortified week, but I was actually pretty impressed with how the group dealt with it. It did take a little longer than usual, of course, because of the lack of single target damage, but positioning was really good, the ticks were dealt with appropriately, and it could have been a lot worse. But yeah, 3 minutes and 34 seconds later, we end up taking down the boss. Good job, team. Thoroughly impressed. Now, here is where I want to both highlight something and apologize at the same time, because it's absolutely hilarious, though it does make a certain player look very silly. Yep, she's gonna love me for this one. The mushroom boss. The mechanics to this boss is to clear the mushrooms, right? Well, as a paladin, and I'm sure some of you already know what I'm getting at, when there are left over, or perhaps you simply want to cheese this one, well, paladins can simply bubble and run through them all, or a large amount anyway. But when you are playing a paladin and you are unfamiliar with the class, well, sometimes you can get mixed up with your spells and mistake the typical bubble for bop. Yeah, bop only mitigates physical and harmful damage. It doesn't quite make you immune to the mushrooms. Poor Keita, but a valuable lesson learnt today. We end up taking down this boss and we have 8 minutes remaining. We get to the last boss and we have 3 minutes and 40 seconds to get this guy down. Very doable, but if something goes wrong, then that could change. And in exactly the same way we achieved KSH, we take down the first ad, we take down the second ad, we take down the third and final ad. And with 20 seconds remaining, we time our very first +20 on the paladin. Well, it was a 21, but same thing. With 1 portal down and 7 remaining, it takes our total rating up to 2,608. 3 party members receive loot from this place, but I'm pretty sure it all went to Keita. Didn't I mention that she gets everything? After this, we failed a Halls of Infusion 20. That one was pretty bad. We went ahead and timed an Alderman 19. And then we found ourselves back at Vortex Pinnacle, a +20 this time. But this Vortex Pinnacle was a little different because we swapped the healer. Yeah, I was sick of that clown, so we replaced him with another dwarf. And this dwarf goes by the name of Kushug. And of course, transmog just as bad as the last. Now, this run was a big improvement from the last one actually. We obviously had more practice playing in a full paladin group, we knew what to expect, and I think Keita acquired a lot more gear from those runs, so she had a lot more HP and could survive a lot more. We take down the first boss and only 1 death. We take down the second boss and still only 1 death. We get to the third and final boss with a couple of additional deaths. I'm going to stop mentioning names because I'm going to get hurt. And we have 4 minutes to get this guy down. This one goes really well, no further deaths, and we do in fact time this key with 46 seconds remaining. The Mythic Plus rating's kind of irrelevant at this point because that's not the goal. But that does give us our second portal. And now we only need 6. After this run, we tried a Freehold 21. That one sucked. We then tried it again on a 20, and we just had far too many deaths and errors. So once again, 2 down, 6 remaining, and hopefully in the next episode we can make some progress. But achieving some portals was only the goal for this episode, and I actually have something a little different planned for the next one. But if you did enjoy today's episode, a like would be much appreciated. Consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see where we go next. And by all means, let me know what you guys thought of today's episode in the comments below. But that's me done. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Wreck gang, wreck gang.